Let's take you to the Western Cape now. Day 2 of the African Peer Review Mechanism's annual conference on credit ratings is taking place in Cape Town. This event brings together African governments, central banks, credit ratings agencies, investors and development finance institutions. They're all discussing the current state of credit ratings on the continent and trying to find ways to improve Africa's economic outlook. Watching developments for us there is our economics reporter Nosipho Radede, who joins us now live from Cape Town. And Nosipho, I can't think of a more timely event like the one you're attending, given the budget we heard yesterday and efforts to improve bilateral relations in the White House.
Certainly, very good morning to you, Ayanda, and to the viewers at home. A timely event, this Africa Annual Credit Ratings Conference taking place here in Cape Town, talking about how do we unlock then domestic markets using credit ratings, as well as how do we sort of chart the path then for Africa's sustainable goals. How do we achieve those, given then the sort of challenges that are faced on the continent when we look at accessing global capital markets and this perceived bias that African countries face. We know, or experts have agreed, that there are steep penalties faced by African countries, but we've got the experts to help us unpack what does the future look like. And I turn now to my guest, Totsen Hendricks, formerly at S&P, as well as a credit ratings consultant. Totsen, thank you so much for your time today. Today we're talking about unlocking then domestic markets using credit ratings. Talk to us about how we can chart that path forward then.
Yeah, thank you very much and good morning. It's still a long road ahead of us, but I think there's a number of prerequisites that can be created and organizational issues that can be done in order to unlock the capital markets domestically. Currently, there's hardly any corporate bond market in any of the African countries, South Africa being very different, but many other countries in Africa are not yet developed in terms of a corporate bond market. So something can be done by the regulators, by the politicians, to create a credit culture, a ratings culture in Africa. One of these suggestions would be to, for example, create a Pan-African regulator for the ratings industry, just like the Europeans have done some years ago, some 10, 15 years ago, with an institution called ESMA. And that's a European-wide regulator for the ratings industry, creating a level playing field across Europe for the industry. I think that would go a long way also in creating this credit and ratings culture in Africa. But then secondly, I think there needs to be some incentives for users of ratings, i.e. banks or pension funds, to actually use ratings and to demand ratings, because ratings is a demand-driven market. No corporate CEO or CFO in their right minds would ever mandate a rating agency if they didn't have to. So you need to create the demand for that. So if from a regulatory perspective, one would encourage banks to use ratings, i.e. for capital adequacy purposes, for example, or encourage pension fund managers to use ratings, that would create a market, and that would help, again, create the credit culture in Africa. So in order to unlock the domestic capital markets, that's the prerequisites that need to be done. But then secondly, it also needs rating agencies that can provide the service. And here we have been talking yesterday, and I guess we will continue talking today, about the possibility of creating an African rating agency. Now, we all know that there are certain rating agencies already active in Africa, but they're limited either in their regional outreach or in the kind of ratings that they provide. And the market really needs a Pan-African rating agency that realizes the specificities of Africa and maybe even sets a counterweight to the dominance of the U.S. rating agencies.
All right, Totsen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much, though, for outlining the opportunities that sort of exist then when it comes to the credit rating space. Back to you in studio, Ayanda.
All right, Nosipho Radede, live to us there at the Africa Peer Review Mechanism's annual conference on credit ratings. Thanks very much indeed.